Good afternoon. So today we have another VIP presenter and our former student, Garfield. So as a part of our United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Plus, you could see more and more practical examples how our own students were able to contribute to those activities which were outlined in the textbook, which we again studying with you through the theories. Yeah? And now I would like here to invite Priyanka Prem Kumar. She is also active contributor and one of the partners of Youth International Mountain Forum. Last year, she was able to present during the Commission on Status of Women. And Priyanka, please.
Good afternoon to everyone present here, and good evening to Eric. My name is Priyanka Prem Kumar, and I'm currently pursuing my MS in Data Science at Indiana University, Bloomington. And for those who are new, as Dr. Bat said, I volunteer as a researcher at the Utah International Mountain Forum under the mentorship of Dr. Brazil. So I'm honored to moderate this event today, and I extend a very warm welcome to everyone present here. I appreciate each one of you for taking the time to attend this program. Stephen Atkinson will be recording this session today. I sincerely appreciate your time and support, Stephen. Today, we'll be hosting ex-VP of Utah International Mountain Forum, Derek Garfield, from Sweden to give a talk virtually and a short presentation on his experience and his work with Utah International Mountain Forum, his contribution to the CSW62, his current doctorate study, and many more. Let me start this event by briefly introducing to you all today's guests, and later we will reserve a 10 to 15 minute Q&A for all of you to ask questions or comment on Derek's presentation. Mr. Derek Garfield was an alumnus of Utah Valley University, where he completed his BA in Political Science in 2018. Later on, he completed his MS in Sustainable Development from Uppsala University, Sweden in 2021. Currently, he's pursuing his doctorate in philosophy in the field of forest management and policy from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. During his bachelor's at UVU, he has worked as an administrative office assistant and also as a teaching assistant. He was also the VP of the Utah International Mountain Forum, during which he hosted the side and the parallel event at the UNCSW 62. He has also interned for Curtis for Congress campaign and worked as an imaging clerk for a Intermountain Healthcare, which is one of the largest nonprofit health systems in the Mountain West. He was also a part of the administrative services as a municipal court clerk for the city of Laramie, Wyoming, and also course coordinator for CMUS, about which he'll be speaking more in his presentation, and also the program administrator at Uppsala University. I must say that's quite an accomplishment for your age, Derek. Over to you.
Thank you, Priyanka, so much for that presentation. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and you took a lot of the pressure off me about going through, I guess, my credentials and introducing myself early on. That makes it a little bit easier for me. But I'm really happy to be here. Thank you all for your attendance. Hopefully, I'll be able to contribute something that you find interesting. I was going to say this evening. It's the evening for me, anyways. I'll go ahead and share my screen, and I'll go over what I'd like to present to you today. Now, I'm not an expert in Google Meet. I've been using Zoom and Teams more often. So if you can't see my presentation right now, let me know.
Okay, good one.
All right. So as Priyanka mentioned, and the purpose of this today, this presentation today, is to discuss what my contributions have been and what my experience has been from the student engaged learning model and interaction at the Utah International Mountain Forum. And then I want to talk about how that has helped to shape my experiences going forward after even leaving the program and going forward in my life. It's had a really important impact on me. And so I'd like to walk you through how it's contributed to my continuing learning processes to student-led learning models for sustainable development. So we'll start with touching on what is the student-engaged learning model at UVU and the UIMF. We'll talk about the preparations that I helped contribute to for CSW 62, the actions that we took at the Commission on Status of Women, and also the outcomes of this meeting, before moving on to what my main takeaways and reflections have been from this experience, and then discuss a little bit about how I've taken those learnings and applied them and built on them moving forward through my education. So, student-engaged learning model. I took this nice information that was succinctly described by the good professor there and his colleagues. It's a problem-based learning model. And this is a really important strategy in modern pedagogy and teaching, that instead of focusing only on informational content, that you give students problems to engage with, real-world problems to engage with. So they have to identify problems and in collaborative groups, investigate those problems. And the major method is based on teacher facilitation of self-learning, but the student being primarily responsible for the learning that's occurring. It requires students to be active participants in the classroom, to actively engage with the problems that they decide to address, and really think through how they can contribute to this problem. The model that's been structured through the Utah International Mountain Forum, the work that Dr. Abdussaad has been doing for many years now, is done in two parts, as explained in this paper. There's the curricular engagement aspects, where the UIMF has been taken into various courses within the political science program. I'm not sure if there's other ones at this point, but within political science courses where you can receive course credit for participation. And then within this rather new course for globalization and sustainable mountain development, and the work of students at UVU as student editors on the Youth in the Mountains student journal, where junior scholars and budding academics at the bachelor level can contribute their research on topics of interest for sustainable mountain development. And then along with this is also the extracurricular engagement aspect, where the Utah International Mountain Forum really shines strong. It's to get students out of the classroom, to have them engage with actors in joint advocacy, and part of that also comes, as I've bulleted out here as well, to write reports. Writing reports is actually a really important part of doing lots of different work, including academic work. Having a record of what you've done and what you've learned is really important, so that you can share that with others who can benefit from your learnings and hopefully stand on your shoulders. So to prepare to have an impact at the UN, at the Commission on Status of Women, we engaged in in organizing several different events. The first one that I helped organize, along with the cohort of the Utah International Mountain Forum at this time, was this panel of NGOs who are accredited under the UN. They have a consultative status through the Economic and Social Council. And we discussed, as it says here, ways to contribute to the Sustainable Mountain Development Agenda, focusing on achieving equality and better lives for mountain women. And this was a really important meeting, because these non-governmental organizations in consultative status, they have an important role at UN meetings and in order to provide expert information, additional consultation to during the negotiations that are ongoing at these different high-level meetings. And so to engage with these NGOs is a really important part of laying the foundation of being able to even participate at a high level at the UN. The second activity that we did in preparation for CSW 62 was to host this very experienced Marcia Barlow from the United Families International, who has many years of experience working at the UN level and engaging at that level. So we were able to gain knowledge from her about how to advocate and what skills were necessary. And we try to implement these in our preparations as well. We discussed among our group of planned attendees, these students and faculty, about creating shared visions for ourselves and the message that we wanted to communicate at CSW. And so these kind of practical hands-on skills were a really important part of, again, laying the foundation for being prepared to be effective. The third leg of our platform was to engage with the diplomats themselves who represent the member states at the UN. Again, this is a really important part of joint advocacy because after all, the UN is a body by and for states in order to come up with common agendas and negotiations about how to achieve our goals globally. So it's these diplomats who are able to make space for, again, participation at the UN. Another important aspect of engaging with these diplomats is that it's an opportunity for us as students to learn about other nations' efforts in achieving sustainable mountain development. So you get some case study presentations about what's been working, what the challenges are, and what kind of common struggles you have. And building up that kind of common understanding, shared experiences is a really important part of contributing to this shared agenda and coming up with action plans that are relevant for a broad group of stakeholders. That's the joint advocacy aspect there. So we were really grateful to have these permanent representatives of Uzbekistan and also from Bosnia and Herzegovina to support us in moving forward to go to CSW. But what did we do when we actually got there? Well, we had planned and we organized and prepared and discussed and went over and over with our group of students to give presentations about the student engaged learning model and how it contributes to sustainable mountain development and also women's equality around the world in mountainous regions. And so we organized with the help of our NGOs in consultative status and also from our permanent our ties with the diplomats to have these two events, a side event and a parallel event. Side events are, yeah, how should you describe it? They're events that are organized by the UN diplomats as well, that they're the ones who create the space, whereas the parallel events are the space that's created for the NGOs. So they have these two kind of parallel tracks for hosting experts and getting additional information during the discussions for the commission in this case. And so I helped to participate in both of these meetings. You can see me here with some of our other members, but that's me in the center. I'm not sure if you can recognize me there. But this was one of the primary ways that we contributed to the discussions about sustainable mountain development at the Commission on the Status of Women. The second way that we contributed was, again, in collaboration with our NGO partners, was to prepare a written statement about the importance of using student-engaged learning models, getting students involved in problem solving and advocacy to support, in particular, mountain women, raising knowledge and awareness about their particular struggles and also solutions by them and for them. And so we were able to get this document drafted up and signed and supported by these NGOs, and then it was submitted officially through ECOSOC and distributed among the attendees. And finally, the outcomes here from CSW 62. In 2018, this annual report from the Mountain Partnership under the Food and Agriculture Organization was published. They highlighted our contributions at CSW 62, our advocacy for the student-engaged learning model in support of sustainable mountain development and women's equality. And the second one was actually that there was this UN Secretary General's report specifically about actions for sustainable mountain development. And they commented again on our contributions from, it says, I think, CSW 64 here, but I think that's supposed to be 62. Or so, I think it was released during 64. Excuse me. So, what were my learnings during all of this experience in these processes? To achieve joint advocacy, you need to find others with shared values and aims, with whom you can share resources. We all have different resources available to us, such as the permanent representatives. They have their resources, the NGOs have their resources, and we as students have resources that we can all contribute together. But it's really critical that we find our shared values and aims so that we can work in the same direction. But just having other people on the team isn't really enough. You need to build this shared agenda through collaboration. You need to be prepared to do your part, contribute your skills, and also be willing to grow, to do things that are a bit outside of what your expertise is and your comfort zone in order to make the collaboration effective. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, a lot of things that we don't fully appreciate just by perhaps going and seeing the events, like the side and parallel events, or the preparation of these written statements. And it's really important that that we do this work, that we take the time to prepare, and that we participate in the planning and organization of events, and try to get other people to help and get them engaged in the cause as well. Practice and repetition, I find that these really enable your ability to be adaptable and to be confident. Successful engagement, it takes time and practice. So I think that it's a lot easier to engage dynamically, actively, perhaps even inspirationally, if you already know the information that you want to present because you've rehearsed it, even if that doesn't mean that you read from a script verbatim. And I think, again, as I was mentioning before with the report writing, to write and write and write and write. Writing is a really important way to concretize what you've been learning, what your takeaways are, to reflect about the learning processes kind of on a meta level, but also it makes those learnings and those efforts available to other people who want to share in that knowledge and hopefully use that knowledge and implement it moving forward. So those are my key learnings and takeaways. Before I move on to what I've been doing from now, I just want to pause and see if you have any questions. Can you see me still? I couldn't see you. Yeah, now I see. You can see me. You have any questions for me at this point? Something that I can clarify for you?
Not yet.
Okay, great. All right, I'll start my presentation again. Oops. All right, so now I'll talk to you for, let's see, a few minutes about what I've been doing since I've been at UVU and after leaving the Utah International Mountain Forum. As Priyanka explained, I moved to Sweden to pursue my master's degree in sustainable development. Before participating with Dr. Abdursayev and getting engaged at the Utah International Mountain Forum, I hadn't really considered getting an advanced degree, and I hadn't really considered sustainable development too much, actually. You know, I was studying political science. I was studying world politics. I was interested in international relations, but I hadn't really understood or I felt informed about Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals and really what the important role they play within the international arena as a global agenda. And so that's one of the main ways that engaging at the Utah International Mountain Forum and with sustainable mountain development and women's equality issues really inspired me in moving my education forward in a new direction. I felt like this is something that I really wanted to become an expert in sustainable development and what that meant and how I might engage in contributing to policy creation that would help to achieve this goal. And so I started my program in sustainable development in 2019. I won't talk too much about that, the education itself, but what I do want to talk about, is I went from wearing this little badge that I've got displayed here, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals in the circle. I didn't really honestly have a good understanding, even at the time of wearing this, about what this meant and what this represented. Can I just ask if anybody really knows what this is? I can't see your hands, so just shout out if you know what this circle represents or if you don't.
So 17 goals, guys.
Yeah, but the circle aspect of itself, why it's in this particular shape. It's not just because it looks kind of nice. Well, I'll spare you the suspense and I'll explain it to you really good, because I went from just like having the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, as like just a broad consensus-based political agenda to understanding that there is a real shift in mindset that needs to occur in order to achieve these goals. And so what this 17 goals really represent is trying to achieve this goal. They actually built it on this idea from Kate Raworth around donut economics and finding a just space for humanity in which we can thrive. The ecological ceiling and also a social foundation. So in order to achieve sustainable development, we need to make sure that we are respecting the ecological boundaries of our planetary system, but also ensure that we're meeting the basic needs of every human being on the planet. So you need to have a kind of regenerative and distributive economy. And so that is the significance of having these goals arranged in a circle. I learned this, and I thought this was really interesting, because the shift in mindset and understanding this dynamic and what we hope to achieve, I found to be really helpful in establishing how we should move forward with the Sustainable Development Goals. But enough about that. I want to talk about student-led education for sustainable development. At the Center of Environment and Development Studies at Uppsala University and the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, they're really focused on these problem-based student-engaged, student-active participation learning models. And they're really focused on these global issues, sustainable development agenda, and resolving environmental and social challenges. And they try to do this by encouraging creativity, reflexivity, systems thinking, and an aim of societal transformation within the pedagogical approach. Let me check my time really quick. I guess I should be wrapping up in just a few minutes if I want to leave some extra questions for you. But the goal at this Center for Environment and Development is to let students take a leading role in inspiring and challenging not only each other, but also the status quo of teachers and researchers, to allow them the freedom to pursue their own initiatives and define their own questions. And so there we see a really strong parallel to the student engaged learning model that's employed at UVU. This creative and reflexive space for learning is understood as having this transformative potential, that education, it should transform hopefully not only our society, but also the individual who is being educated themselves, that we should undergo this transformative process by engaging creatively with new ideas in new environments to build new connections and think about our problems in new ways that can hopefully lead to solutions. What makes this process work is how it's organized into the development of courses at the bachelor and master's level, or undergraduate and graduate level. And they do this through this model. So this curricular model and extracurricular model are integrated in a bit different way, it seems here. At the center of creating a course at this is these course coordinators, and they're kind of filling the role that Dr. Abdursaev fills within this course. They're responsible actually for coming up with the content that should be taught to meet the learning objectives of the course. And then they have all these different support structures around them. Expert working groups who help to give them additional information about what they think would be relevant topics and content to cover, what kind of problems might be interesting for students coming into these courses. And then, of course, the education administrative support staff. And we engage in this process of looking at what our course learning outcomes are for, and they're all focused on sustainable development. To plan out all these things, to come up with a schedule, to think about what teaching methods would be appropriate for this course, to deliver it itself, to stand up in front of the course and help to facilitate students within the class themselves to take responsibility, to engage actively, to not be passive recipients of information, all that kind of good stuff. And then also to do the evaluation, to make sure that we document what's been done, what the student experience was, what our experience was, and pass those learnings on to the new course coordinators and make sure that we are trying to improve. At CEMIS, at the Center for Environment and Development Studies, I also, at the same time, after completing the first term of my master's program, I applied to be one of these student coordinators. And so I ended up teaching the next cohort that came into the master's program and the cohort after them for, I guess the credits wouldn't match what we do in the US usually. So this is about a full-time term's worth of courses. So I engaged in these processes for two years cycles of these courses. And so this being prepared from student engaged learning early on at UVU before even starting this program, I felt is really what gave me the confidence to step up and say, yes, I want to do this. I want to take on this additional responsibility of being a student coordinator, to really think through these problems and try to motivate my now junior peers to engage with these questions actively, to look for their own problems to solve. And I tried really hard to implement that idea into my designing my courses. And here's just one example of that, of one of the courses that I did. Here's kind of a visualization of what my approach was, to look at the learning outcomes of the master's program, the course learning objectives, and then actually describe what the course content was and connect it to what we felt were relevant skills, competencies that are discussed within the literature about sustainable education for sustainable development or sustainability. And that's what I'm sharing here, I guess. I don't have time to discuss all of this, but I think it's important to know that there is quite a large literature about how to teach to achieve sustainable development. And that includes teaching students to engage in these different areas, to develop these different skills as competencies, to think about questions in terms of their systemic interactions, that's systems thinking, their strategic thinking, to think about, well, given the current situation, what kind of interventions can we make, and try to think about what kind of effects that are going to have. And that's the futures thinking competency. So you get all these different competencies. And so the goal is to organize education around developing these skills if we hope to achieve sustainable development. And that's in addition to topical knowledge about the ecological, social, and economic sustainability challenges in both local and global contexts. So it's quite a lot to get your head around when you start getting into teaching about sustainable development. And so again, continuing on with what the extracurriculars are and getting students engaged beyond just coursework, the final examination format for one of these courses, for Worldviews and Visions, was to have students engage in these competencies and actually ask them to create scenarios for the future in 2100. And so they actually created narrative scenarios about what the future would be like based on trends that they had selected, social, ecological, technological trends, and how they thought these could interact over time and lead to different types of futures. And then we put these into a book. They maybe edited them themselves, put them together outside of the class, after the class was finished, and put them together. And I've included the links embedded within the PowerPoint, so that if you like to read these, that you can participate in them as well. And these were shared on social media and all that kind of stuff. So again, I really tried to keep this not only curricular but extracurricular approach when building these courses to offer this opportunity to students. I think I should wrap up at this point, but just the last thing, what am I doing now? I'm working on my PhD in forest policy at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. And the focus of my research, or I guess the kind of broad aims of my research, is how can we transition Swedish forestry to be more sustainable by engaging with fast-growing broadleaf species like birch and aspens. That we have different species of for those in the United States, but they have them here in Europe as well. And the goal of my research is kind of to figure out, well, what's needed to achieve this transition. So I'm trying to apply this kind of broad systems thinking approaches to understand forestry as a very complex social technical system, and how actors are innovating to create value with fast-growing broadleaf species, and how those become useful to fulfill social functions like energy, food, clothing, fiber, all these type of basic societal functions. Yeah, I wanted to leave you just with some critical reflections and questions for you to consider, that hopefully you will be considering in this course at some point or in the future if you haven't already, and then open it up and ask, do you have questions for me? Okay.
You're opening up questions right now, like why did you choose forestry out of all the different policy issues?
Why did I choose? It chose me. I think forestry in Sweden is actually a really important industry. 70% of this country is covered in forests, and they're used actively to generate a lot of material for construction materials, but also for pulp, for paper and packaging. So it's a really important industry in this country. My goal is actually to stay in Sweden, to live here long term. My family is here in Sweden, and so it felt very relevant to get into this area. I wanted to move closer to the natural resource side of policy, to try to gain more experience within natural resource governance.
Any other questions?
Was there a defining moment that led you to get a master's in forestry, like from the activities at UIMF?
Well, just to make sure we're clear, my master's is in sustainable development, but and so I maybe that's what you meant, but no, it was kind of gradual. Early on within my bachelor's, I didn't really see myself as an academic. But I realized that as I engaged in the policy side, that the science is really important as well. And so getting involved in this kind of expert knowledge, science, policy nexus, I think really helped me understand why it's relevant. I know that maybe sounds stupid. It sounds maybe ignorant, but I think I had a different vision for myself than where I ended up, actually. And I have Dr. Abdisayev to thank for that. That he helped to show me that I did have the skills and abilities necessary to engage in graduate education and to contribute to developing knowledge and expertise that could be used to guide policy and to have a positive effect in the world. So there wasn't a single defining moment, but the whole experience itself and engaging with Dr. Abdusayev was really formative for me.
Derek, may I ask also a question? Because many of my students also in this class as well, yeah, they are enrolled in programs related with constitution studies. And
Sure.
you dedicated quite a lot of time worked on that direction, but you went towards the sustainable development. And to which degree, I mean, those programs also help you here navigate this area and make right decisions. I mean, because we see SDGs are quite universal, they're overlapping, and here we have all of those issues taking the place, and they could be integrated also properly. How is your experiences in dealing with it?
Mm. Yeah, I did do a minor in constitutional studies, so I'm very familiar with the challenges there as well. But you know, at the same time, one of the things that I really loved about engaging in constitutional studies was to discuss the political philosophy, political economy.
From your backpack. You see?
Can you hear me?
I need that, Bubba.
Yes.
I need it. I need it.
Let's aim.
You see?
Oh, let's aim.
Because I need it, baby.
Please go ahead.
Dave's on the team's clock thing. He's talking.
Derek, please go ahead.
Derek, you can go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, I mean, one of the major discussions that's at the heart of
Hey, that's mommy's nice bag.
constitutional government is understanding not only human relationships and how we should relate to each other, but an important part of it actually is also how we navigate our use of natural resources. And if we look at the Constitution, many of the state constitutions, attention to natural resources and their governance is an explicit part of constitutional governance. That's something I didn't really gain a really strong appreciation for during the program, but came to give it more attention a bit later on. And so I think this could be a really fruitful and interesting area of study to understand how constitutional provisions within state constitutions actually might affect our ability to implement the sustainable development goals generally, but achieve sustainability in general. So I think there is a lot of really important overlap that's going on here that needs to be considered that I don't think has been considered very much before. So I think you can have a really nice meeting here to explore how our constitutional governance systems structure our ability to engage with natural resources to meet needs of our citizens. So I'd encourage you all to, if you're between these two things, to look into those types of questions. This idea about natural resource governance, I think, can be really fruitful.
Do you consider all this to be like the prerequisites required for the CMAS course?
Are they prerequisites?
Yeah, like what you have explained, other than the soft skills, of course.
No, I mean, one of the challenges, but also one of the opportunities within the Center for Environment and Development Studies and their approach, actually, and the master's program that I attended, is that it was open to anybody who had achieved their undergraduate degree, their bachelor's. So there was no limitations on prerequisite knowledge other than you need to be able to speak English as a major language and things, the basic kind of academic skills, actually. And so that's a really challenging position to be in. It creates a lot of opportunities because you can get a lot of multidisciplinary, collaborative, innovative ideas going on. But at the same time, people come with such different knowledge that that can also serve to create barriers in achieving a consistently high level of education, because you sacrifice a bit of the topical content knowledge that people need to receive and how much they actually get. So there's this kind of interesting balance that needs to take place. That is a struggle within the student-led education model at CMIS.
Thank you.
We have 2 minutes left. Yeah. Do you have any other questions? Derek, thank you very much for making the presentation and coming back to our class and our students. You see, this semester we have several of you senior our VIP students to come back and talk. And it would be also a great opportunity for you to continue to network with each of you and those who graduated, and also with our new generation of students as well, because there are so many of them are very passionate. They just discovered this magic of the student engaged learning, and many of you could provide for them good guidance, and vice versa, like reverse mentorship. Yeah.
Yes, please please feel free to reach out to me if you have any additional questions, or if you'd like to discuss a common interest or something like that. You can find me on LinkedIn, but my email is included on the PDF slides that I've sent to Dr. Abdusayev as well.
Okay, thank you, Derek. And thanks, Priyanka, as well, for moderating it. Stefan, thank you very much. You have such a busy schedule, graduating, but at the same time, as the president of UIMF, making the transition quite successfully. Thank you again. Yeah, and we will be in touch. Yeah, Derek, let us know if you need any help with the forestry in Sweden.
Yeah, right.
Our graduates will be glad to come and also to help to work with you as well.
Yeah, I'd love to see some of you here. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for having me.